It is the Newsroom on Morning Express, and welcome back. Glad that you are still here with us. And let me go straight to introducing two more panelists who have joined us, and that is Patrick Gadhara, who is a communications consultant and also a cartoonist. Karibu sana. And also Clay Muganda, who is an editor with the Standard, with us here at Standard Group. Karibu. Now, just before we took the break, we were discussing the Anne Waiguru case and corruption in general. And I'd like to hear from you, Gadhara, in regards to the fact, well, the question that we're looking at is, are we running after a story? Should we have picked this, especially now that this Kafura, who gave the affidavit, came out with all these revelations? We do know that the EACC had given a clean bill of health to Anne Waiguru, and here we are now again with a story hitting the headlines. Should we have picked this before?
Well, I think the fact that the affidavit has just been exposed, has just been filed, I don't think that you'd have done anything earlier that you haven't done now. That said, I still think that in general, the reporting on corruption itself has sort of mirrored other reporting on other issues, which is mostly that the media is obsessed with the politics of things as opposed to the actual substance of it. And I think how the affidavit itself is being reported is a good example. There are specific things that she is alleging in this affidavit, you know, specific events that happen specific times. And a lot of those events were reported by the press itself at those times. She's talking about things that happened in November, things that happened in July, you know. And if you go back to the record and you check how the press reported, they can very easily compare what they were reporting and what she is saying. But they're not doing that. They're simply saying this is what the affidavit says. You know, there is no sense in which the media takes upon itself the responsibility to try and verify some of the things that are there. It's just, it's an explosive affidavit, and that's the sexy part.
But then again, maybe due to time. For instance, now
it's not really due to time.
It can be because of time.
All you need is an internet connection, Google. You know, you have your own archives of your own newspapers. All you have to do is go and check. She says, I was charged with this on this date. All right, go and check. What did you report? You know, etc. The other thing is, for example, the Anne Waiguru herself, yesterday on Nation FM says that Aidan Halake, had not been employed or was not working in the devolution ministry till February of 2015, which is a lie. And it is easy to confirm that it's a lie because...
It's verifiable.
Yes, I mean...
Yeah, but she said it, so are we supposed to stop her from saying it?
No, but when you report that this is what she says, and you don't report...
That's exactly
what
you've done.
you finish. And you don't report that actually this is what we reported, because the Star itself reported as far back as July that Halake had been employed with... had been moved to the devolution ministry in November, you know. And so, I mean, it didn't take me, what, 5 hours, 10 days to find this out. It's a simple Google search and you find it.
Okay.
It's a laziness of reporters in actually going and finding out the context. They're too enamored by the sort of sexiness of the explosive affidavit instead of actually doing their work, which is journalism. Go and verify what you're being told. You know.
Okay. Clay. Yeah, seated on the desk. Are we being lazy and literally just reporting what is happening as opposed to giving a comparison and saying this is what the affidavit says, what do we have so far, and compare?
Okay, fine. There are times when that charge of laziness comes in, and I mean, when we actually fail. But in this particular case, I'm trying to understand what is this thing that was in that affidavit that actually we reported, and yesterday we did not go back to it. Because you're saying that Waiguru went on Nation FM and said that Halake was not working at that place. Were we supposed to stop her from saying it?
No. But I mean, it was subsequently reported in several
that she said.
That she said. But what I'm wondering is, again, we reduce it to he said, she said. It's not about us reporting the truth, that this is what actually happened. All we report is this one said this, that one said that.
I think the first thing actually in journalism is that the first thing you do is that all of us are reporters. That's the first thing that you do. We are all reporters. There is no way that I am going to mute what she has said and then start giving my own interpretation without actually telling people what she said. So first I have to tell people what she said before actually I start giving my own interpretation.
If I
but just a minute. But this idea of I don't think it's laziness per se. I mean, that's a little bit, calling it that's a bit too harsh. I think we're just we're a little bit like bicycle, the way we approach some of these issues, you know. Like yesterday, the affidavit, I think it was such an explosive thing. I mean, Waiguru had been out of the news for quite some time over this, and then this thing, I mean, out of the news as concerns NYS, because she's been in the news about this Nairobi governor's post. Then this thing comes. I mean, this was a very good story. I mean, I don't think we made a mistake by reporting it.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. But going forward, I think whatever Gadara is raising, it's only that he wants Gadara is putting the horse before the cart. He wants us to actually start raising these issues about the affidavit, even before we get the affidavit.
I want you to report the truth.
So the thing is, I think going forward is something that needs to be done. It's the time now we need to start either poking holes or actually beefing up some of these things. Thing.
I think our media behaves almost, I mean, and this is our established mainstream media, behaves almost as if it is social media, as if it is breaking news. By the time it goes to print, we already know what affidavit exists. It's been broke, it's been discussed on Twitter.
Okay. All right.
They should be verifying what they're putting in and putting in context. And this is where they fail, is they act as if they are Facebook, as if they are Twitter.
All right, let me go to Crispus on your comments on that. And I remember some time ago, we actually had a debate as to whether we should even change the name of our newspapers, because they're no longer newspapers, they are context papers, as it were. Instead of giving us the headlines, really it should be giving us the context. Do you agree with Gadara that possibly by now we should already be seeing comparisons as to the affidavit and the facts on the ground?
Absolutely. And I think the only difference in terms of thinking, I think Gadara is rather too harsh, because we've been in newsrooms and we know the pressure sometimes actually that occupy, especially editors, in terms of dealing with sensitive matters. But I think I want to say that as far as Clay Muganda's comments are concerned, the media exists to entertain, inform, and educate. So in this sense, I think it is important for media to ensure that it is actually informing, not going by what the news sources are saying. If Anne Waiguru is claiming that probably Halake Wako wasn't in the devolution ministry at that time, we need actually to interrogate and debunk the myths there. Then I think it is important because looking at print, I disagree that sometimes we don't have enough time to verify facts. And this is why I questioned sometimes on this forum the ability to bring what we call, in the newsroom, bring what we call day two journalism. It is important, especially for print, to be pursuing that aspect, because it doesn't make sense when today I take a newspaper and I'm reading that there was an affidavit somewhere, and damning affidavit for that matter, and this is what it says. We need to find a way of taking the story forward as print.
Okay.
Yes. But to disagree with Gatara on one part, I think the context and the analysis is coming in. As Clay said, the story broke, they had to report it, but eventually the context and analysis is coming in. And we've seen that in today's papers are talking about inconsistencies in the affidavit. And moving forward, that's going to happen. But what did you expect them to do? Not to run the story? The story broke pretty late.
This is the fallacy. The fallacy is that they can only run the story if they don't really engage in the research to find out whether the things they are being told are true. That's a fallacy.
No, but that's not what we are saying.
The choice is not between let's not run the story, and let's run it. That's the first choice. The choice is how do you run the story? When you are told something, how do you report it? Look at how our papers, and it's not just on this issue, all across in many issues how they report. They tend to report simply that guy said.
I agree with
that
Gadara.
guy said, and that's it.
I actually want to agree with Gadara.
But that's, you're not getting our point.
You do not report. As a reporter, you just simply don't report anything that you are told. Does it mean that you can report lies?
But for you to begin building the context...
This was an official government document.
Yeah, before you begin building the context around what the affidavit is, don't the public need to know this is what the affidavit says? This is the information we have. So that now you begin to build on that affidavit and say, based on the affidavit or based on the information that we have, these are the questions that we ask.
Again, if you look at our news cycles, a lot of that is reported very early on, as in the sense that the affidavit exists, it alleges certain things. It's already out on social media, it's on Twitter. In fact, it's been tweeted by the very same journalists, who are putting it there.
Yes, but
and then they've got let me finish. Then they've got a whole day to write their stories, etc. And then what appears the next day is exactly what was on the video.
Just a minute.
Why is it that we don't imbue our reporting with this context?
If you looked at yesterday's papers, there were other stories also in that paper. So this idea of saying that they have a whole day, we cannot spend the whole day writing one story. Why do? There were other stories. Just a minute. The way Gadara is putting it is like yesterday or day before yesterday, you are not supposed to do anything else apart from writing. Just a minute, Gadara. I gave you your time. I gave you time to say all that you wanted to say, how we are supposed to report the stories before they happen. Usually,
hold on, before they happen?
That's what you're trying to say here.
No.
Gadara, you keep on talking about social media and all that. One more thing, you see, most of our readership goes past social media. You might have read that thing on social media. How many other people did not read this thing on social media who actually buy this paper?
Yes.
There are so many other people who do that. Just a minute. So we have to cater for that audience also before we break. And just a minute.
Allow me to finish, Gadara.
Okay, fine, go.
Here's the thing I don't get. You say we are catering for this audience. And because I haven't heard about this affidavit, let's not tell them that what's actually contained here is wrong.
No, I think
this actually is not true. And this is my point, is the fact that we don't imbue context in it, we actually do a disservice to our audience. We're not helping them.
There's one mistake that is making. The idea that news is broken on Twitter for most Kenyans is just false. Most people get their news from their papers. They don't get the news from Twitter.
I think it is not true. Radio. Actually, radio is very important.
But they get their news. Original reporting comes from the newspaper.
If I continue this conversation, I'm going to charge Gadara because it will be a class. Yes, it will be a class.
Okay, Clay, he interrupted before you finished. In terms of, first of all, there is the audience that do not subscribe to social media. They may not be, social media. And again, what's the authenticity of social media?
You see, the thing is, Gadara is actually looking at a very small audience here. That because this story, he read it and he made his friends read it on social media. We are actually supposed to start with the analysis right away. What I'm saying is this, Gadara. First, we have to report, and this is something that actually sometimes happens in this place, and I find it quite odd, whereby something happens today and tomorrow, as we are reporting it, you already have written an editorial about it. Usually, in most places, is that the first day we will report, and that's why it's always called that day 2 journalism. So what we need to be doing is probably incorporating day 2 journalism on the first day.